You're listening to old Western stories, where dust settles slow, guns speak loud, and every tale rides straight into your imagination. Hit that subscribe and saddle up, the ride's just startin'. Stage rolled in slow, wheels groanin', like they knew this town was no place for hopeful things. Heat already sittin' heavy on the street, thick as cow breath, syrup slow and mean. Dust hung in the air like ash that never learned to fall. Droughtwood didn't greet folks so much as study 'em, like a dog that's been kicked too often to wag. The place was 24 buildings stitched across the scrub like a half-finished wound. Saloon leaned left, chapel leaned right, general store straight as a lie. Clara Hawthorne stepped down off that coach with a calico dress starched stiff and a carpetbag that held all she hadn't lost. She moved careful, quiet, like someone used to listening for breaks in a man's voice. Skin pale under a bonnet's shadow, but her eyes were made of flint, not silk. She looked for Thomas Mercer, the man she'd married by proxy on paper from Cheyenne. The man who'd sent letters speaking of land, partnership, and shared quiet. The man who'd signed his name with a proud loop and promised to be waitin'. Only he wasn't there. What met her instead was silence. Not polite quiet, but that raw-boned hush of folks holding their breath. Across the way, kids played dead in the dust, shouting fake gunfire. A mutt barked once and vanished behind the smithy. The undertaker stepped out his doorway just long enough to see her, then stepped back in. From around the corner came a rider. Duster full of dust, boots hanging, low, horse lathered from a long push. He didn't speak when he pulled up, just slid off the saddle with the weight of a man used to burying, more than he built. He took his hat off slow. "You Clara," she studied him a beat too long. "I am Eli Mercer," he said, voice like cracked leather. "Thomas was my brother." Her grip tightened on the bag. "Where is he?" "Dead," Eli said, like it was a thing he'd worn down to a nub. Red Creek shaft collapsed, week and a half back. Took him fast, I reckon. Heat swelled around her. The kind that carried no breeze, only pressure. She looked toward the hills. Nothing moved but the shimmer of heat off stone. "I wrote him from Denver, then again from Rawlins. Why wasn't I told?" Eli's mouth worked like it didn't care for the answer. Didn't feel right putting grief in ink. Figured best you hear it in person. Besides, he left things tangled. Tangled. Her voice held steady, but just debts, Eli said. Big ones, tools, whiskey, lumber, horse feed, some back wages he owed the stable hands. And now they know your name. Think you come to claim what's his. There's men here who'll press that like it's gospel. So you came to warn me, came to give you a choice. He thumbed the brim of his hat. You can turn right around, get back on that coach. Folks might still let you leave in peace. And if I don't, he glanced toward the saloon, where a shadow moved behind yellowed lace, then you'll need someone standin' with you. Ain't just about debt, it's about name, presence. You stay on your own, they'll come sniffin' like wolves. And you'd stand with me, her voice was iron flat. I got land, not much but it's paid. Half-finished cabin near Snake Gulch. I'd offer room, a roof. Work to earn your keep if that suits. Wouldn't be charity. What would it be? Eli met her eyes. An arrangement. You ain't Thomas's widow, not rightly, but you came with purpose. I'm givin' that purpose a place to rest. She watched him. Watched the way his eyes didn't flinch, didn't wander. No hunger in 'em, just calculation. Like a man readin' trail signs. The wind shifted. Brought with it the scent of old horses, dried sweat, grease from a saloon fry pan. Droughtwood was watching her now, doors cracked, faces half shown, judging, weighing. The banker leaned on a porch post 2 buildings down, ledger in hand, eyes sharp as fence wire. Eli said low, words out already. You stay, they'll expect you to carry Thomas's load. Unless they see you got reason not to. And you'd be that reason. I'd be a line they'd think twice crossin'. I ain't popular, but I'm respected enough to keep hands in pockets. Why? She asked. Why help me? Thomas was blood, he said. And you came all this way thinking he was a man worth marrying. That says something about you. She turned that over slow. He made it sound good in letters, she said. Said he had plans. Said he was building a life. Truth is, I think I married the dream of him, not the man himself. Then we're both standing in ashes. A horse snorted behind the livery. Hammer rang once from the blacksmith's anvil. Life in Droughtwood had a way of sounding like endings. What happens if I stay? She asked. You help finish the cabin. You pull your weight. I'll keep the wolves back. That's what I offer. Marriage, not unless it's earned. I ain't proposing. I'm offering terms. She looked down at her boots, dust-covered, fine leather from a better place, already talking on the color of this land. And the debts, some'll fade with Thomas, some won't. But together we can make noise enough they won't press too hard. You speak like you've done this before. I've stood between trouble and someone who needed it. He didn't elaborate, didn't have to. The scar along his jaw told stories his mouth never would. A church bell let out one low clang, just one, like a throat clearing. I need to see the land, she said. Come sundown, Eli replied. I'll ride you out. He touched his hat, then turned, boots thudding on the boardwalk like punctuation. Clara stayed where she was. Let the heat press into her bones. Let the stairs land and scatter. She could leave. Take what few coins she had and vanish. But Droughtwood had a gravity to it, not charm, not promise, just weight. She lifted the bag again, walked toward the inn, each step measured, slow. At the porch she paused. Behind her, someone laughed, dry, hard, joyless. Like this town was already betting on her fall. She didn't look back, just kept walking, wondering if this was the start of something or the end of something else. By sundown the trail had bled its color, the sky gone bruise-purple behind them, and Clara Hawthorne rode stiff in the saddle, skirt cinched to keep from catching brush, boots dusty clear to the knee. Eli Mercer rode ahead, Thomas's brother, same jawline, same shoulders, but not the same man, not by half. The horse beneath her shifted with every rock, ribs moving like bellows under hide, and the heat clung on even as the sun dipped low. Crickets started up in the dry weeds, sharp like they was whittling something out of the dark. Snake Gulch opened sudden. A wide cut of land sunk below the rim of dry hills, brush-studded, hard-packed earth with a smell of sunburnt rock and old timber. A near-finished cabin stood at the edge, part skeleton, part promise. One wall still just frame, roof shingled only in patches, like the sky might leak sorrow straight onto the bedroll. Eli swung down and tied off his reins, then turned to her. "This is it," he said. She dismounted without his hand, took in the place. Wood piled neat beside the wall, hammer and square left in a pail like a job walked away from. "He wrote about it," she said, voice thin from the ride. "Said we'd finish it together. Plant cottonwood out back, grow into the silence." "He meant it," Eli said. "But meaning don't count for much if you can't follow through." She walked the line of the outer wall, boots soft on dirt packed tight by weeks of sun. Inside was bare bones, dirt floor, a cot, a stovepipe not yet fed through the roof. Smelled of old sawdust, man-sweat and time. "You live in here?" she asked. "More or less." "Suits me fine." She ran a hand across a support beam, rough with splinters. "And me? There's a loft space. I can rig a ladder, lay out a bedroll. Once the wall's done, it'll hold heat better. Ain't comfort yet, but it's shelter." She turned toward him. "I didn't come here to be kept. Wasn't offering that." "Then what? Call it survival," he said. "You help build, you help eat. You put sweat into these walls, they'll stand for you same as me. We don't have to be kin for that to count." She studied him. Jaw grizzled with road dust, shirt stained, arms folded like he'd braced for worse news than her. His voice came flat but not cold. "I ain't Thomas, but you came out here looking for something steady. I can offer steady if not soft." The wind tugged at her sleeves. Coyotes cried somewhere past the ridge, that high lonely sound that rides your ribs and stays there. What happens if I say no? She asked. Then I ride you back to town, no questions asked. You find your own trail. She didn't answer. Just stepped back out into the failing light, eyes turned toward the line of fence staves stretching toward the horizon. You ever finish a thing, Eli? He gave a dry chuckle. Not lately. She nodded once. Then let's finish this wall. Next morning they worked in silence, save the nail strikes and saw drag. Wood bit back with splinters and stiff grain, but she swung steady, sweat trickling down her neck, boots scuffed white with dust. Eli measured while she hammered, didn't correct her once. Sun climbed fast, and with it the smell of hot pine and old sweat. By noon they'd framed and fixed the fourth wall. It leaned slight, but it held. She stepped back, wiping her brow with the back of her wrist. Crooked, she said, but it's a wall. Hell, Eli muttered, I've been called worse. He fetched water from a rain barrel, handed her the ladle. She drank deep, tin cold on her teeth. Word travels fast in Droughtwood, he said. Trask from the banks already asked about you. What you say? Said you were Thomas's widow, more or less. Said you were staying. He didn't smile. He know I've got nothing. Don't take a genius, but he smells weakness. He's the kind to turn ink into chains. She set the ladle down slow. And the others, saloons already telling stories. Stable hand wants money for a dead mare. Trask wants the lumber or the land. And a couple rough ranch hands think a widow's easier to pressure than a mercer. Ain't a widow, she said. Ain't a mercer neither. Yet, he said. She looked at him sharp. That a proposal? Just a fact, he said. If you stay, they'll treat you like property unless you plant your boots firm. Names carry weight out here. Shared names more so. She didn't speak. A hawk wheeled overhead, crying once. She followed it with her eyes till it vanished west. Cabin stood quiet behind him, 4 walls now, roof still waitin'. Eli leaned against a post. You don't trust me, he said. Not yet, she replied. That's smart. He spit into the dirt. But if we're gonna stand this place up, you need to know I ain't Thomas. I don't make promises I can't keep. She didn't answer, just stepped past him into the cabin. Later, as dusk rolled in again, they sat beside the fire in front of the hearth she'd swept out that morning. They ate beans and dry bread, no talk. Just the sound of chewing and crickets and the far-off rumble of wind thinking about mackin' trouble. Why'd you stay? She asked, not looking at him. Could have left like anyone else. Place like this, it holds what you can't carry. And you got a lot you can't. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The fire popped sharp, a knot burstin'. That's when it came, a knock. 3 times, hard, not whined, not driftwood fallen. A knock with a spine to it. Eli stood slow. Clara did too. No words, just movement. He reached for the rifle hanging by the door. Moved to the side, peered through the slat in the wall. Opened it. Outside stood Trask. Banker's hat in his hand, smile painted on like a cheap sign. Behind him 2 men. Hired weight. Evenin', Eli, Trask said, polite as poison. Heard this place got finished up some. Figured I'd come see it before it ends up in my ledger. His eyes flicked past Eli to Clara. Miss Hawthorne, or do I call you Mrs. Mercer yet? Her voice came low. I ain't claimed neither name tonight. Well, Trask said, I got claims of my own. Thomas left debts, and debts don't die with the man. Not when there's a woman here to inherit 'em. Eli stepped out onto the porch. She ain't part of his ink. Trask smiled wider. That ain't how I read it, but we could come to terms. Trade, maybe, time, maybe something else. Clara stepped forward. You got papers? Trask patted his coat. I do. Then bring 'em, she said, in daylight with a witness. Trask's smile faltered just a touch. You sound like you mean to stay. I do, she said. Then we'll talk soon. He tipped his hat, turned. The 2 thugs didn't move till he did. Eli shut the door slow, latch clicking home like the hammer on a loaded gun. They stood quiet, listening to hoofbeats fade down the trail. Clara turned to Eli. "Looks like the wolves are already here." "Yeah," he said, voice like gravel, "but so are we." Trask came back 2 days later, this time with papers. Legal kind, thick with ink and dust, folded neat like a weapon in his vest. He didn't bother knocking, just rode up with his 2 dogs in tow and stood at the edge of the cabin's shade like he didn't need permission to own the place. Sun beat down hard that morning, dry light that cracked lips and made sweat taste like rust. Clara had been hauling water from the barrel, arms raw from chopping kindling, her dress dark with work, not dirt. Eli stepped out first, rifle nowhere near but presence thick enough to match. "You brought your words," he said, not bothering to hide the contempt. "Let's hear 'em." Trask smiled polite, same as a man settin' a trap with his own teeth. "Just here to settle what's owed. Thomas Mercer borrowed against this plot. Lumber, stone, even the stove inside that cabin, all listed." He pulled a sheaf from his coat, shook it once like a snake shedding skin. "Signed and witnessed." Clara stepped beside Eli, eyes narrow. "And what's your play? Take the roof? Or just the floor under our feet?" "Ain't personal," Trask said, holding out the paper. "Debt's debt. If you can't pay, I'll take the deed. Cabin's not finished anyway, won't fetch much, but I'll salvage what I can." "And if we refuse?" she asked. "Then my next visit won't be so cordial." His eyes flicked to the 2 behind him, muscle with no purpose but pressure. One cracked his knuckles loud, a little show for the dirt. Clara stepped forward, took the papers from Trask's hand, held them to the light like a preacher examine a flawed gospel. "You're bold, Mr. Trask, but you got one problem." "And what's that?" She looked him square. "You assumed I scare easy." Trask chuckled, tipping his hat. "No, miss. I assume everybody breaks. It's just about how long it takes." With that he turned, boots creaking in the saddle as he mounted. His thugs followed, but not before one tossed a rock at the porch steps. Just a rock, but it thudded heavy. "A promise, maybe." They rode off without hurry. Eli watched them go, jaw tight. "He'll be back," he said, "maybe with a badge next time." Clara turned the pages, eyes moving slow. "Some of this don't line up. The signature here different slant. Witness line blank." Eli peered over. "Forgery or desperation," she said. "He's counting on fear more than fact." She folded the papers and tucked them inside her apron. "Let's see how he likes waiting." That afternoon they walked to town. Not skulking, not hidden, walked like they belonged. Dust rose with each step and folks sure took notice. Shopkeep nodded stiff. Kids went quiet. At the saloon, laughter died when they passed the porch. Inside, Clara stepped up to the bar. Jarns, the barkeep, leaned on the counter, cleaning a glass already clean. "Miss Mercer," he said slow. "Or is it still Hawthorne?" "Depends who's asking," she said. "You got a name or a ledger?" "Got both." He pulled out a slip of paper. "Your late husband drank here often." "Tabs never settled." "What's it add to?" $82 and change. "That's a mighty generous pour." "He was a generous drunk." She didn't blink. "You come after him or after me?" "You're wearing his shadow," Jarn said. "Shadow's got weight," she nodded. "Then let's talk about what debt weighs. You want cash, I've none, but I got hands and I got time." Jarns narrowed his eyes. "You offerin' to work it off." "I'm offerin' fairness," she said. "Nothing more. Saloon ain't no place for fairness." Eli stepped beside her, silent but near. Jarns looked between them, then gave a slow nod. "Fine, I'll put your name on the board. Dishes, sweepin'. Don't want trouble." "Then don't make it," she said. They left with stares clinging to their backs. Word spread fast in Droughtwood. That night 2 more riders passed by the cabin, didn't stop, just watched. Shadows on horseback, silent as tombstone dreams. Eli sat on the porch, rifle across his knees, boots planted firm. "They're waitin' for us to blink," he said. Clara sat beside him, sewing a tear in her skirt. "Let 'em wait. You know they'll try something, corner you in town, catch you off guard. Then I'll stay sharp, she said. This isn't your fight, he muttered. She paused, needle hanging midair. You think I'm still here for him? Ain't my place to say. I came to marry a man who didn't exist, but I'm still standing. That's gotta count. It does, he said. But this land, it eats people who don't know what they're standing for. She tied the thread, bit it clean. Then maybe it's time I choose. Next day they worked again on the roof. Sun beat harder, like it wanted to burn 'em clean through. Sweat pooled under Clara's collar, dripping down her spine. Eli passed her shingles, wordless. They moved like they'd done this a dozen times, fallen into rhythm. Come noon, a dust cloud rose from the trail. Rider, just one. Lean frame, long coat, hat low, rode up without haste, reined in, didn't smile. You Clara Hawthorne, he asked. She nodded. Depends who's askin'. Name's Ketch. I represent a man with interests in your property. That be Trask. Might be. You got something to say it now. Ketch dismounted slow, boots hittin' dirt like dropped hammers. Man like Trask don't like being challenged. He sent me to remind you that debt has consequences. That a threat? Eli asked, hand near the rifle. Just words, Ketch said. But words can carry. Clara stepped down from the roof, wiped her brow, looked the man in the eye. You come out here again with threats you won't leave standin'. Ketch smiled like he'd expected as much. Suit yourself. He rode off. Clara stood there long after the dust settled. Eli looked at her. You didn't flinch. I've been flinched out, she said. That night she sat at the table, looking over the forged papers again. Moonlight silvered the edges. Eli poured a measure of rye, slid a cup across the table. You thinkin', he asked, always, about what comes next? She looked up, tired but clear. If I let Trask push me now, I'll be run out before the season turns. And if you don't, then I better start actin' like this land is mine. She stood, walked to the door, opened it slow. Night rolled in cool and wide. Stars blinked like tired eyes. Far off, a coyote called once, then twice. You said names carry weight, she said. Eli stood behind her. They do. Then maybe it's time I take yours. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Just watched her in the doorway, wind catching her hair, dress flared like a flag about to be planted. You sure? He asked. I ain't romantic, I ain't safe, I ain't easy. She looked back at him. But you're still here. And I'm still fightin'. Her hand rested on the doorframe. We can't do this halfway. No, he said. We can't. She turned, met his gaze. Then we do it proper. We stand together. Trask won't own me. This town won't swallow me. Her voice didn't rise. It settled deep, like roots talkin' hold. Outside, another rider passed by without stop, this one slower. Watchin'. Eli reached for the rifle. Tomorrow'll be loud, he said. Then let's make tonight quiet, she answered, but neither slept. Just sat by the fire, eyes never leavin' the dark. Somewhere past midnight, hoofbeats again. Slower, closer. Then footsteps on the porch. Footsteps hit the Mercer porch like slow hammer taps, each one dragging weight. Midnight wind stirred the cabin's corners, brought with it the smell of sweat, old leather, and something sharper. Gun oil maybe, or bad intention. Clara didn't move from her chair, fingers still wrapped round a cold tin cup. Eli was already standing, rifle in hand, not raised but close. The fire in the hearth hissed low, like it too was holding its breath. A shadow passed the window. One man, not big, not loud, but sure. Knock came next, just once. Then silence. Clara stood. Her voice didn't shake. Who is it? Name's Cooper, came the reply. Sent by Trask, not here to shoot. Just talk. Eli stepped to the door, didn't open it. He sends a lot of men to talk. Most don't say much worth hearin'. You can send me back, Cooper said, but he'll just send worse. Clara reached for the latch. Eli gave her a look. She gave it back twice as steady. If we don't open doors, we ain't standin', we're hidden. Eli stepped aside. Clara opened the door slow. Cooper stood tall but lean, black coat, no hat, eyes sunken like a man who'd been paid more in regrets than coin. He nodded once. "Miss Hawthorne, you know my name," she said. "Let's hear yours means something. I work for men who keep ledgers. Trask wants results. He says you've been mackin' noise. Says it's time to settle. And if I don't, then this land's gonna get real crowded with men you don't want knockin'." Clara leaned in the doorway, backlit by fire. "Tell Trask I ain't a claim to be filed." "I'm not here to run." Cooper hesitated, then reached into his coat, not fast, and pulled a folded envelope. "This is his final offer," he said. "Sign the deed. Leave with enough coin to start fresh." "Not much, but enough for a train ticket east." She didn't take it, just stared. "You think I came all this way for a train ride home? I think you came looking for a future," he said, "and this place don't have one. Not with Trask on your back." Eli stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time we put Trask on his heels," Cooper sighed. "You want war, you'll get it. Just know Trask don't bleed easy." "Neither do I," Clara said. Cooper left the envelope on the porch rail, then turned and walked into the dark, not looking back. Inside, Clara stared at the sealed offer, then kicked it off the rail. It fluttered to the dirt like a promise never meant. "You all right?" Eli asked. "No," she said, "but I'm clear." Come morning, word had spread. Like blood in water, the town turned curious. Whispers followed Clara at the mercantile. Old women paused their knitting. Young ones watched her like she carried a pistol in her skirts. Jarns at the saloon said nothing, but wiped the bar harder when she walked past. Even the preacher's wife, tight-lipped and lace-wrapped, crossed the street to avoid her. Clara felt it all, the shift, the pressure, not loud, but sharp. She didn't flinch. That afternoon she and Eli laid the final shingles. Sun hammered their backs, hands raw from nails, but they moved with purpose. The cabin stood now, complete. Still plain, still quiet, but whole. "Ain't pretty," Eli said. "Neither are we," Clara answered. "But we stand." Later that evening, as dusk fell, Clara stood on the porch, eyes on the horizon. Eli brought her a mug of coffee, sat beside her without a word. "They want this land," she said, "but they don't know why we need it. Why do you? Because it's mine now. Not by marriage, not by mercy, by work. Blood and sweat and choice. That enough to hold it." She sipped the coffee. "It has to be." Thunder rolled soft in the distance. The kind that don't break, just threatens. The next knock came at sundown. Sheriff Hart this time, old, sharp, and tired. Badge dulled by dust, eyes heavy with knowledge. He stood at the gate, hat in hand. "Even in," he said. "Mind if I speak plain?" "Wouldn't understand you otherwise," Eli muttered. Hart stepped up to the porch. "Trask's filed a formal claim. Accuses you of squatting on land tied to unpaid debt. Says you've refused all lawful offers." "Because they ain't lawful," Clara said. "The papers are forged." "Witness lines empty." "I checked," Hart nodded. "I figured you might." Still, Cordell side with the one who pays faster, and Trask funds the judge's election run. "So this ain't justice," she said. "It's pressure." "It's Droughtwood," Hart replied. "And pressure here bursts what it can't bend." "What happens if we stand?" Eli asked. "Depends how many friends you got left when the dust settles." Hart didn't stay long. Just laid the truth like a cold stone and walked off into twilight. That night Clara went into town alone. Eli offered to ride with her. She said no. She walked with her head high, boots sharp on the boardwalk. Went straight to the saloon. Jarns looked up surprised. "Need work?" he asked. "Need a moment," she said. She turned to the crowd. Not big, not quiet. Miners, ranch hands, card cheats, and barkeeps. "My name's Clara Hawthorne," she said, voice clear. "I came to this town to build a life, not beg for it. I've paid debts in sweat. I've fought whispers with work, and I've buried the man you say owed you. Now I'm asking, not for mercy but respect." The room hushed. Jarns poured a glass, pushed it toward her. On the house, he said. She didn't drink it, just nodded and left. Back at the cabin, Eli waited. When she stepped through the door, he looked her over once. You still standin', he said. Didn't come here to fall, she answered. Rain hit that night. First drops in weeks. Light at first, then heavy. Wind pushed hard against the walls, testin' what they'd built. But the roof held. By morning, tracks led up the trail again. Fresh ones, wagon wheels, more than one. Clara stood at the window, coffee in hand, boots on the floor like roots in the earth. Trask, Eli said. Looks like he brought the law and the ledger. Then we'll bring truth and timber, she said. You ready? I was born ready, Eli said. But it was Clara who opened the door. Rain still hung on the porch rail like second thoughts, beads glintin' in the soft light of a gray morning. Wagon wheels creaked slow up the trail, 2 rigs heavy with men and 1 carrying law. Clara stood just inside the cabin door, one hand on the frame, the other wrapped tight around the handle of a fresh-poured cup. Eli watched from behind, rifle propped but not raised, leaning against the wall like a quiet promise. Sheriff Hart rode in first, didn't smile, didn't dismount, just tipped his hat low like a man leadin' a funeral no one asked for. Behind him came Trask, dry as old bone and just as mean, coat snapped clean, boots polished like he thought intimidation came with a shine. 5 riders in all. 2 with pistols, 1 with a scattergun, all looking too calm for peace. Miss Hawthorne, Hart called out. You mind steppin' outside? Clara stepped through the door slow, no fear in her stride. Dress damp at the hem, boots steady. The porch groaned under her weight but held. I mind, she said, but I'll come anyway. Trask dismounted like he owned the ground. Brought the sheriff to make it official. You've refused settlement. Continued unlawful occupancy of assets bound to unpaid debt. I'm here to collect. You brought muscle, she said. I brought record. He held up a folder fat with ink and lies. This here proves what's owed. Thomas Mercer's debts transfer through intent of union. You aim to marry. That puts you in the line. She took a step forward, met his eye. Intent ain't law, and I never took his name. Doesn't matter, he said. You're livin' on his land, usin' his lumber, sleepin' in his bones. No, she said. I'm livin' on my own sweat. Every plank laid, every nail driven mine. He may have started this place, but I finished it. Sheriff Hart cleared his throat. There's been accusations of forgery, Trask. Signatures don't match. Witness lines are empty. Accusations, Trask said, smilling with half his mouth. But law don't chase ghosts, it chases ink. Then let's talk ink, Clara said. She reached inside the cabin, pulled the folded document Trask's own man had left, held it out toward Hart. Look at the date, the witness, the signature that don't match Thomas's handwriting from his earlier contracts. I've been to the clerks, compared 'em myself. This one's crooked. Hart took the page, studied it from the saddle, mouth tight as a noose. You sure? I came here for a man, she said. He died, but I stayed for something else. I stayed for land. For work, for worth. That paper don't measure what's real. Trask took a step forward. You think the law's side with you over signed documents. I think the law's lookin' real close right now, she said. And it don't like Bain used. Hart handed the page to his deputy. Get this to the judge, he said, quietly. Let's see if he flinches. Trask's smile slipped. This ain't over. You're right, Clara said. It ain't. Not till you leave. Trask's men shifted, eyes narrow. One reached toward his belt, not drowin', just remindin'. Eli stepped onto the porch then, rifle in one hand, the other relaxed by his side. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't have to. This land's not for sale, not to you, not to fear. You wanna push, we'll push back. Trask turned to Hart. You gonna let this stand? I don't see bullets flyin', Hart said, and I don't see a clean claim. Best you leave this be till the court decides. She'll be gone by then, Trask said. Not likely, Hart replied. Woman plants her boots in the ground and holds steady through this mess means something. Clara stepped down off the porch. Stood on the dirt between law and theft. You think I'm running, Trask. I came farther than any of you ever did. Crossed half the country with nothing but a name and address I've mended 3 times. You think I'd stop now? Trask said nothing. His silence louder than any threat. The sky above started to clear. Rain eased off, clouds peeling back like curtains on a final act. The smell of wet pine, raw earth, and iron hung in the air. Hart turned his horse. This here's settlin' in, he said. And until a judge says different, I ain't liftin' a finger for forged claims. You'll regret this, Trask said. Maybe, Hart said. But not today. Trask mounted, spat in the dirt, and wheeled his horse hard. The rest followed. Wagon wheels turned again, lighter this time, like even they knew they'd lost something. Clara watched 'em go, not speaking, not smilling, just breathin' deep. When the dust settled, she turned to Eli. We'll need to fix that porch rail, she said. He gave a short nod. I'll cut lumber tomorrow. No, she said, I will. The rest of the day passed slow, quiet, no riders, no knocks. Just the sound of wind through finished walls and the distant call of birds returnin' after storm. That night they sat by the hearth, firelight soft, shadows long. Clara stitched a tear in her sleeve. Eli sharpened a blade. You meant it, he asked. About talkin' my name, she looked over. I meant talkin' my own future. If your name fits in that, we'll see. That's fair, he said. More than I expected. She smiled then. Not wide. Just enough to hold on to. You'll get used to fair. Outside, the land stretched quiet. No more riders, no more threats, just space. And the cabin, 4 walls, a roof, floor swept clean, coffee warm on the stove, a life not owed, but earned. You've been riding with old Western stories. If the tale hit your mark, give it a like, drop a comment about your favorite part, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next trail we ride. Don't forget, hit that subscribe so you're always in the saddle, and you'll always be ready when the next story rides in.